Okay, let's call the meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the prior minutes, I think. Was that on the agenda, right? Oh, we have to pledge of allegiance. Where is that? So let's rise. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Okay, so before we begin, I just kind of wanted to say like the general overlay of the meeting, and sorry for everybody in the audience, we're going to be stuffing our faces while you're talking, but we're going to approve the minutes. Then I believe we have some public comments and special presentations from folks, and there's an order in which we're going to call those people, and then we'll talk about the hopefully start staking positions on what we're going to do with the school property, or what we're going to recommend to the school board, and then be out of here. And the time, what did we give ourselves for these meetings? How much?
2 hours.
2 hours. So let's try and all get that done in 2 hours. And the public comments are limited to 15 minutes, I believe, right?
Public comments 3 minutes, the presentations are 15.
My fault. The presentations themselves are 15 minutes. So with that, is there a motion on the minutes from the last?
Make a motion to approve minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be sure to the agenda also.
Sorry?
The agenda we need to approve.
Oh,
I move
I
that we
skipped
approve the agenda.
got it.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The third is public comments, and are there any public comments, Ms. Rivers? Is this a public comment, or are you speaking as during the special presentations?
Public comment.
Okay, cool. Come on.
Kimberly Rivers. I live in Ojai, and I spoke at your first meeting, and just a quick summary of that. I'm one of those parents, and my son is one of those kids who was drawn into the district by Summit School. We lived in Piru, and if Summit School was not in existence as a public program, we wouldn't be in the district. And now my son's at Matilla. We've since moved to the city, and he'll be going to Nordoff as well. And so Summit was our pathway into the district. I really want to encourage you to never underestimate the power of a vibrant public educational program to draw in students, to increase enrollment in the district. So far, in my view, the district has failed for a long time to develop a long-term plan to address the great problem of declining enrollment. The schools need to be marketed, dynamic programs developed, and I think it's an amazing opportunistic time with new leadership coming in that provides an opportunity. And that leadership should be given a chance to weigh in. Those are just a few ways that the district could act to move on developing a long-term plan regarding declining enrollment. And your committee, each of you can choose to be part of the continual problem of the district, saying the sky is falling regarding enrollment and continuing to shoot holes in the sky. And that's how I view discussions about closing and getting rid of Summit School. Summit is a valuable asset to the district on many levels and should remain in district use. Again, a thriving public school and a thriving public district provides value in ways that private educational providers do not. There's greater influence on property values, community connection across income, across color, and across perspective come from public schools. Keeping this site in district maintains the potential for a dynamic magnet program, perhaps supported by new administrative leadership, or maybe a fantastic and creative parent-driven charter school, both with the site remaining in district use and not surplus property. So your committee can set the tone for the district moving forward, creating a long-term plan, utilizing all resources, all sites to increase enrollment. I believe the district should be building pathways into the district to bring more students in rather than putting up walls. I have been imagining with a group of other dedicated community members and parents, who you'll hear from a few later tonight, what could happen if the district leadership gave just a bit of thought into creating a new dynamic program at Summit. There are options. Wow, what could that look like? I believe it could draw in many students who would then matriculate in the similar way that my son has to Matilaha and Nordhoff. By supporting the efforts to take this property out of district, deem it surplus before the new superintendent weighs in, you would be doing a disservice to the public interest. Increasing enrollment should be the focus of all of our time, not advocating for ensuring a private educational vendor has assurance of a location for their program. That is not an appropriate role for a public school district nor for this committee. And it has nothing to do with quality of a program or how much we like the people or how wonderful they are. It's just not, it shouldn't be the focus of a public school district or a committee that it forms. What does this district need? That should be the question. That should be the question we focus on, not how best to deliver a public school site to anybody. Please be part of the solution and not the problem. Summit is not surplus property. At a minimum, that determination should not be made until the new superintendent has a chance to weigh in. Thanks.
Do we have a period of where we can ask Ms. Rivers questions, or does
I'm happy to answer any questions.
is that fine?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Rivers before we move on to the special presentation?
How long was your son involved with Summit before you moved here?
He was at Summit before I moved here.
To Ojai. How long were you in Piru?
Almost 4 years.
So you
We were making the
transported
trek from Piru to Upper Ojai, and then my husband had a stable job here in the valley, and I had an experience with my son at Nordhoff, and I actually started crying on the Nordhoff campus because this high school out near us just had a totally different vibe with, fencing all around and barbed wire, and I called my husband and said we need to move to town and I want my son to go to Nordhoff.
So if we kept it as not surplus, what kind of timetable are we looking at that you think that things could get rolling that we would have to leave it sitting the way?
Well, so my understanding is there's somebody there now who's providing some income to the district, and I don't know if that could be renegotiated. So that's one part of your question. You were saying it's just sitting there. I don't
Right, but
think
if
it's just sitting there.
if it
And then-
remains surplus, that person would probably not want to continue there because it's without a lease.
Well, I would say again, that'd be up to that individual.
Right.
But to your first part of the question, the timeline, I think there might be other people that you'll hear from later who can better speak to that. But I know that the ball is rolling and folks are working on it as quickly and depending on which option the district would push the community into. So there's, a public magnet school could happen in the fall if the district and the community were behind it. I think. I mean, I'm not an educated, I don't work in a school district, so I don't know how quick, and then another option of a charter, I don't know exactly the timeline for that, but I do know folks are working on it.
I guess my question is, I watched the video, saw the 2 hours, and it's my understanding that to have a charter school, you have to have, is it 86 or 85 committed students?
So, good question to clarify. A charter school can exist with far fewer students. The district would not be obligated to only provide that space to the charter school unless they have the 86 in-district kiddos. It's a classroom-based program.
What's the minimum number of students for a
For a
school?
charter school to exist, I don't know if there is one. I mean, there are charter schools that exist below 20.
But Andy, isn't the rules for a conversion charter a little bit different than that? So it would involve that folks who would be petitioning for that get a majority of enrolled students and a majority of staff to sign on rather than the 86 number?
As far
That's
as
not-
having priority rights to the property, no.
As far as a conversion, so there's the two pathways, I understand, to a charter school. There's one where you're like creating a charter and you might request a district site or you might look for an off-district site. And then somebody might say, we want to convert this school to a charter school, this site. And that there's slightly different rules and procedures for those.
Well, I think there certainly are different procedures, but the underlying assumption would be that the district would be involved in that, and that's not something the district currently is interested in doing. So the only way a charter school would exist up there is if it was done completely outside of the district. And so therefore, the comment was the district would not be obligated to provide the space. We could still explore other uses of the space other than charter school under the scenario in which there's any possibility of a charter school starting.
And remember too, if parents go on a charter route and the district doesn't approve it, parents have the option to go to then the county board of education to seek approval for that. And if that is not successful and they choose to continue, they can go to the state board of education for
That's right.
approval.
How many
In all cases, though, in any of those three scenarios, it would be pulling students and revenue significantly away from district, but those are the pathways of ultimately getting a charter authorized.
So I would say that in this situation is really unique, and I followed the charter issue, and in a lot of places it can draw from the district, but in this case, if you've already closed the school, that's already students you've lost. Potentially it's gone, it's not being pulled into the district. I mean, that's the fact. I don't think I'm making that up. And then, so if there were a program there, we can even speak hypothetically, if a district were to approve a charter school and be the supervising body of it, there is a relationship there. And so the charter fees for that site can go to that district. There can be, maybe they want to contract with their overseeing district for food services, for garden services, for other things and programs that they can build that relationship with. So, anyway.
So,
Go ahead.
I guess if we're writing down a list of uses, projected uses for the property, you would support the use, and you want us to include Summit being a charter school.
I'm suggesting that there are options, and that in looking at the big picture of what the district is dealing with, that I don't think it's wise to take that site out of district use.
Understand?
And so there's options. So I would support the district saying, hey, you know what? We hear there's rumblings of a charter. We would rather keep that fully in district, and we're going to reopen and make it, we're going to talk to those parents and create a, I don't know, dual language immersion science magnet school.
But
or something there.
I think,
I'm
I'm just trying to read between the lines here. I don't think that's a use that the district or the board is going to support. At least that's what I'm understanding. So what
Sorry,
we're,
Trevor, I can't hear you.
I said, I don't think that's a use that the board or the school district will support. But what we're supposed to do as a committee is come up with a list of uses and then make a recommendation to the school board, right? And so what you're saying is not, on that list of uses should be,
Yeah,
What?
yeah, magnet, a charter.
okay,
Yeah,
it.
absolutely, I think so.
And I
yeah.
think she's also said that because there's gonna be a new superintendent that has maybe different ideas than Andy, that no decision should be made until the superintendent has a chance to weigh in, because that's it could be a long-term plan for the whole school district.
Yeah.
Have they given any opinion at all? No?
Just
So
a basic
basically-
question. I'm just curious, do you have a sense of how many families or parents are interested?
So I understand that the requirements for a conversion have been met, and they're getting more signups every day.
Numbers? How many?
I don't have those
I'll
numbers.
be giving the Summit
Okay,
Charter
yeah.
School update. Yeah, Kimberly's actually, she's an acquaintance and definitely a helper, but she's not.
Yeah,
so
you'll-
I'm Thea, and I'll
Yeah.
definitely.
But your biggest opinion is that it not be surplus?
Yeah, that it remain in district.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trevor, I do have a public comment.
great.
And I do too, Trevor. My paper I put there, so used to Kathy being there, I forgot to bring it to you. So I'll be after.
No problem.
If you can pass those out, or just pass them around. So this is just an email that I received earlier this week, and
Oh, I
the
thought you were giving
No,
a
it's not
comment. I'm
me.
like, what the?
No.
Oh, Andy's personal thoughts?
No.
Cool.
This is an email I received from an Upper Ojai resident earlier this week who requested that I convey this to you guys, so this is what I'm doing now. Email is from June Behar. I apologize if I mispronounced that last name. Hello, I was not able to attend the March 24th meeting, but I wanted to send a message to OUSD, particularly to the current 7-Eleven committee,
looking at the future of Summit School. I'm a longtime resident of Upper Ojai, and both my children attended Summit School in the 1990s. I respectfully request that you consider keeping the Summit School property as an educational asset to the greater Ojai Valley, of which Upper Ojai is an acknowledged residential area, though not in the city limits of Ojai. I support educational use of the property and buildings as a magnet school or a charter school through OUSD. There is a large population of families in adjacent Santa Paula and a possibly crowded Mupu school. There are opportunities for students to be served at Summit School, along with others who live in the area or want the small scale advantages of the buildings and playground. Thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Bailey?
These ones are pretty, yeah, those are pretty mellow. They shouldn't sting you. So I just want to share a couple things that have come up over the last 2 weeks with the 7-Eleven committee, and in discussion with a few people about the Summit site. There was some excitement experienced, by my wife and I when we found that that people were interested in, continuing to have more community access to the site. And what they talked about was being able to be outside, how they, maybe in the past had barbecues or a place to meet and feeling like that wasn't the same thing, or a place for the kids to play. And I reiterated, as I have from the start, that, that it is, always has been a community place to come play after school. People still come and play after school or after program time. And, we would like to expand it, especially looking at that field area to the south. So we had some discussion with an ex-student of mine, and we want to make clear to the committee that we would love to take some of that area, if ever we were in a position where we were going to be there for a while, and make it for a beneficial mixed use with the community, specifically some arboladas, a place to sit, a place for people when they're walking to have their coffee. Last night, Natasha and I were there after program so late, and it got to be 5:30. We had a lot of lunch left over in our little cooler, and we just sat out on the grass and had lunch, and we were the only ones, or had dinner, and we were the only ones there. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice if there were more people here sitting, coming in their afternoon meeting or after work to sit outside and have some food. And there's no place like that in Upper Ojai. And I think that the Summit the campus, especially that lower field area, has some unique opportunities to have that kind of space. And these are the kind of shared spaces that we're interested in working to create if we're going to be there for a while. So by no means do we feel like we'd be an exclusionary user of the site.
And
So,
Jim, that would still all fall under the child care development purpose pursuant to that.
yeah, when I went,
Section.
I've been down to county, and it's zoned residential, rural exclusive, RE1, lots over 1 acre, and yeah, you would. There's this child care development thing. You could also have, you can actually zone things as a park up there. You could zone some of that space as a park. That gets a little tricky with the county. They have to have maintenance people come up. But sure, why not make that space more usable? And so I just want to let the committee know that we are not interested in having this exclusive lease, but we want it to be an open and built upon, added upon property for the benefit of everybody up there. So,
Mr. Bailey,
yes, sir.
to the best of my recollection, when we last met or the time before, one
Yeah.
of these times, there was a lot of discussion about uses and things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I asked or someone else, but I thought you made a comment that you thought that Summit.
I'm gonna catch that bee, by the way, in a second. That's what this cup is for.
That Summit could use a charter, or a charter would be a good fit. Did we speak about
Did I say that?
That's what I thought.
I don't know that I said. Somebody asked if we would want to be a charter.
I'm
No?
not really sure. I just
Yeah.
remember that the charter discussion came up, and
I think charter schools, you
I
know,
think he said he didn't want to be a charter because
No, I know you don't want
yeah,
to be
yeah,
a
yeah.
charter.
But do I think Summit
But
would
when we
be?
talk about the use,
Mm-hmm. You know,
what's the capacity of
That's
Summit?
my question as well. I
What
mean,
is
I
the
just need to be
capacity?
brought up to speed. I looked at the documents that showed the school site, but I've not spent enough time up there, but I know you have and you folks know. Is there room for 2 entities?
not during I don't think that there would be room during the day for a shared educational use with the program that we're running and a charter school side by side. One, I don't know the legality of it, but space-wise, I certainly know in terms of the building space, you know, I would prefer and could use the whole space.
Got it.
But I think that lower field area for some space that had like a semi-permeable membrane, a low fence where there was clear demarcation. Does that answer your question, or do you have a different question of what I have personal
You know,
opinion about
I'm not-
charter school there?
No, I'm not really sure where this thing came in.
Yeah.
It was just something I caught. I didn't pay too much attention at the time. Then I
Yeah.
started getting property profiles and everything and looked at
Sure.
every house there and every one of the, you know, every one of the 1,700 kids in the private school in the area go to and what school numbers and just one last thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got this correct either. Is the annual lease payment on that 16,000 a year? Is that close? What is
It's not a lease. We have a facilities use
That's
license permit, and it is for the rental of 3 rooms directly that we can manipulate, and that is 16,000 a year currently.
And that's at how many total rooms?
3.
Oh, there's only 3 total rooms?
No. For that we are allowed
No,
to use
I
to our
have-
and how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a large hall, large like Hartman Hall. 5 rooms on that campus.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bailey, is
Yes,
it
sir.
an either or for regarding the charter school? It's, if there's no way to exist simultaneously.
I don't have you know, if the charter school were small and they wanted to use 1 room or 2 rooms, maybe. I think it'd be really difficult. I don't think they'd want to exist with us there. I think it'd be distracting for them, based on the nature of our program. You know, would you want to run your charter school when, you know, kids have the freedom to be outside and choose to be outside and your kids don't? You know, if that's how you were doing it, because our kids are doing their more academic work at home, and so they have more social free time in our environment and, you know, wood shop activities. I don't think it would go well if you're sitting trying to do fractions during the chop saw.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
when you refer to doing improvements to the lower part, how
Yep.
would you foresee funding of that?
With sweat and some of our gold, we've acquired savings in our business. I've got an ex-student, Matt Combs, went to, you know, OI schools. He's now an architect. You know, we were talking, he said, you know, if it was something the district agreed with and they liked the look of the layout, already on the site plan, there's a site plan that looked to develop that lower area with some walkways and some paths, but district never was able to finance it. He said between 50,000 or, you know, 100,000 on the far end, you could get a lot done. So, you know, I don't know if it'd be something district, because it's their property, they'd want to be involved in, but it's something we could cover. If we were going to be there long enough that it felt worthy investment.
Could I get a point across? Mr. Cantwell, I remember the fist fight I had with the city and the school building the skate park here. And I had to go to the DSA, the Division of State Architects. And my understanding after what we've gone through, that everything would have to be approved by the Division of State Architects on a school property. Is that correct?
That's correct. So DSA would be, well, DSA, assuming actually the cost of the project was over a certain threshold, just so, you know, 6 figures.
Right.
DSA would be involved. We don't deal with city or county building inspectors for any projects taking place on a school campus. It's a state level entity called Division of State Architects. However, that doesn't actually have that much cost. That just is the oversight entity. What adds cost to school construction projects is the Department of Industrial Relations, DIR, and prevailing wage. Anytime there's a public works project, you must pay prevailing wage, which prevailing wage often is 3 or 4 times what we would actually think of as prevailing wage, you know, what people make in the private sector. And so the one way around having to pay prevailing wage is if another user, like when Rotary paid for the new pavilion at Matilahaw, they did not pay prevailing wage because it was kept completely separate from the district. No district funds went into the improvement. And so because there was no public funds that were used for the project, you are able to do construction on a school site. It doesn't have to go under public works requirements, but it still would be subject to the same.
Even if
Get it done.
even if the property's surplus, that still applies.
Well, no, if it's surplus and there was a long-term ground lease, that sort of thing, then no, then there would be the ability for an entity to function outside of the DSA parameters.
Make it affordable to do some things to the benefit of the community.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Didn't you used to operate your school in one room?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, so you have operated under smaller circumstances.
Sure.
Wouldn't it be possible for you to downsize the use if something else was there?
Sure, it would be possible.
I mean, because,
It would, yeah, some families I'd have to, let some families go and, yeah. Yeah, if I had to. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just go elsewhere. I'd probably find another location and just leave the, yeah. Yeah.
Because when you started the program, it was 17 kids?
17
and then
kids.
This year it's...
Oh, total, as you guys all saw a couple weeks ago, it's like 100. So yeah, very different. Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, could go elsewhere. Get small again. Don't tempt me with that too, because
Any other public comments?
things is challenging.
Yes, sir. Do we, is it mandatory that they fill out a piece of paper before they speak?
Yeah, well, not necessarily before, but before he leaves.
Okay.
I'll fill it out. My name's Chuck Crawford. I've lived in the valley since 1980. My question, being I'm in grounds and maintenance, is the water that's on that property is certainly not a surplus. As a landowner and part of Cesar Water District over there, there's some water there that's far more important to me than the land. So an example would be charter school that's now over in Miramonte had a permit to build a Miners Oaks, but they had no water. So just want to throw that out there.
Did you say the water is not surplus or?
It is not surplus. As a landowner, you have a share of
but
water that belongs to that
the school
property.
has one share.
Thank you.
I mean, that's
And
the
how
share.
valuable do you think that is in the last 4 years of drought that we had?
Well, but they have one share, just like 20 acres has one share. I mean, that's,
So my
It's-
point is, we can't do anything without that water.
they have water.
Why give it up?
You're not giving it up.
If
Excuse
it's
me.
surplus, if it's
It's
surplus.
not, you're not giving the water share up, it goes with the school.
So my example would be the charter school that tried to build in Miners Oaks, had the land, had no water, couldn't build.
But I don't know what what that has to do with the Cesar water. Although I know that's the only commercial thing that has a water share, and I don't know what their bylaws say.
I don't
But
either.
I know they have one water share,
But,
Water go into the property?
yeah.
well,
Did you know that?
so that was my comment, my concern, because I've had to deal with it for so many years. Water is the first part of any conversation, in my opinion.
Well, I think the water is important.
Thank you.
Very important.
Okay.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, because if the board were to consider multiple, hey, good job, guys.
Thanks.
You got the beat.
Hooray! Right on, right on.
But what I was thinking is, suppose this 7-Eleven committee said, do 2 things with the property, and the school board said, yeah, we'll do 2 things. What you're saying is there's only one water share, and that if the 2 things were to do a school and do a school, they would have to split the water. That can't be done. It runs with the land.
I don't know that
I
piece.
think we
I
need more
just,
information on that.
I know. Do
well,
we know?
and that's why I wanted to put that out there, because I have an experience here with a teacher who's now retired, who started this whole thing we call Chaparral, out of Matilahaw, with some outward kids that got them involved in fishing and reading out there. And Steve Olson's now gone, but what a great idea. And why not put packing horses on that bottom 4 acres down there and take the kids up the ridge or something like that when we're talking about outreaches? But it all has to do with water. You can't have a horse without water. can't have a classroom without water, and there is no fire hydrant on that property, so if you were gonna build anything, there's a whole nother conversation.
Excuse me, that's wrong too.
Thank you. That's why you're here.
Well, because the fire hydrant's right in front of my property down the street, and I mean, I know it. I got a permit recently to build a house.
Yeah.
So-
So, the construction that I'm seeing
And the
recently,
Casitas water meter is right on the corner. Not that it's worth anything.
well, they
but it's-
backfill, they backfill, from my experience, they backfill when Cesar runs out with that tank that's there.
Well,
But I just
I'm
wanted to put
saying
the water
there
in
is,
the
there is
conversation.
hydrants
We're off
there.
into water flow.
Yeah, so Chairman, if we could-
Well, thank you, Bob, you know what I'm saying,
Definitely.
so, right.
I have that written down.
So I just want to put that conversation in there, because in my opinion, it's not surplus just based on water alone. Because everybody in this valley has been restrained by water use in some way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, Chuck, what would your recommendation on, with the water be, if it were to be deemed surplus property, how would that water possibly still be able to be used by the district?
I'd like to see Steve Olson come back and do what he did with this. Put the pack horses up there, go up Cesar, go out whatever, have a whole, like Becky Beckett does with kids out here in the meadow and classrooms and the things that are already there. I mean, those are just names that I know of, people that have already succeeded and brought to the district as we're talking about. And so that's where I like the argument of, hey, we've got this. And in my opinion, that's why I say water, and I gave that charter school example, where the housing over in Miners Oaks, a senior that's being built right now, based on water, right? And so that's why I'm just saying, hey, water, okay? Because the potential's there, and that's why the teachable moment. I work here 8 hours a day for that 1 minute that a teacher gets. And it's absolutely amazing when you see the light bulb comes on, and to me, there's a light bulb up there. So, thank you.
But that's not something that Jim couldn't provide, right?
Oh, I don't care who it is. I'm saying that that water allows anything to happen on that property. Take the water away and what do you got? Don't have school.
You can't do it if there's a charter school up there.
Todd of Ventura County Fire Department has weighed in now. There's a small project over here, much smaller than the 4+ acres. And they're requiring 1,000 gallons a minute for 2 sustained hours, which is unachievable.
Oh, I know, my property's the same way.
No, I understand, it's unachievable, so if somebody has aspirations for structures, those are now unachievable. And a number of them are unachievable in the city. So, yeah, while water is critical, you have to take a look and see the limits on the development, so.
Any other public comments? No? All right, moving along to the special presentations. The order that we're gonna take the special presentations, I think there's 4 of them. We'll limit them to 15 minutes per presentation. Is there someone keeping time, by the way? No? Is there someone that
I
could?
can.
Thanks.
Yeah, we have alarm.
We all have our phones. But someone other than me. And then Steve, Barbara, Thea, and Marianne. Is everyone else here? Are they all here? Yes? Thea, I see, Marianne. Cool. So by way of introduction, last meeting, I told y'all that I was gonna go down and speak with Mr. Bennett's office and Cindy, and I met with Cindy and Steve, and they started discussing various alternatives and options, and in lieu of me regurgitating what they told me and missing half of it, I just asked Steve to come here and give the board a presentation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Steve Offerman from Supervisor Bennett's office and a Nordoff graduate. First, thanks to all of you for serving on this committee. Obviously, a very difficult, challenging, and perhaps painful task you've taken on. I know in the city of Ventura Unified, where my kid goes to school, they just voted to shutter the Blanche Reynolds Open Classroom program. Very difficult decision. Anyway, this wouldn't be the first school in the county unincorporated area to be surplused if in fact, ultimately, that is the decision. And I'm not here to advocate one way or the other, but the county government has picked up 2 other two elementary schools that were surplused by their district. In other words, they went all the way through your process. They were literally boarded up. They were appraised. They were deemed surplus, and they were headed for public sale. The community approached the supervisor's office, in our case for Oakview School, that was owned by the Ventura Unified School District. In the case of Supervisor Zaragoza, the Nyland Acres Elementary School in Nyland Acres outside the city of Oxnard. The community said, hey, we're willing to tax ourselves to acquire these for community use. And in both cases, the county successfully put tax measures on the ballot, and they were approved by the voters of the local communities to tax themselves sufficiently to acquire and operate those properties. So in those cases, basically the mechanics of it is that we draw a boundary of a taxing area and then put it to a popular vote. What happened in Oakview was a little different than a popular vote. It can no longer happen. There was a period in time when property owner voting versus open registered voter owning would allow a creation of a benefit assessment. I could really get bogged down in the details of it, but the only options currently available would be a popular 2/3 vote for a parcel tax to purchase any property, be it a school or what have you. And the rules are very quite liberal on that. Any area can vote for such things. We actually did the same thing for the Ojai Library. We created a taxing district, largely in the east end of the Ojai Valley. It was a 2/3 vote, parcel tax to support the Ojai Library, to buy extra hours and extra services there. So we've done it in Oakview, east end of Ojai, around up through Foothill for the Ojai Library. Did it out in Nyland Acres for the Nyland Acres School. So that's within the realm of possibility. It does take a vote of the 5 supervisors to do that. It's not a foregone conclusion that would be approved. To get a vote of the supervisors, you would probably have to have a business plan that made sense to the county executive office in order to not incur their opposition to it. They would be looking to see that it would be self-supporting and entirely self-sustaining, close enough. That they were not essentially buying a money pit that would not be an asset to the county ownership and would not be an asset to the community. So in those cases, they would also be looking for community benefit. We're not looking to become essentially a commercial landlord where we just hold it and lease it out to somebody else and it's not open to the public. Probably wouldn't fit with the county's mission. It would probably have to be something that at least in significant portion was open and available to the community and to the public rather than being something that was not. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Oakview School. It was a pretty good-sized school, and we've got a whole bunch of different nonprofits in there. That would be another requisite for any lessees or subtenants of the county at any facility. Be some sort of community benefit nonprofit. So we've got childcare in there. From time to time, we've had nonprofit martial arts students. We've got the Nan Tolbert Birthing Center. Moved the county library out of a private leasehold space and into there, which enabled them to greatly expand in Oakview. Wide variety of uses. There's an arts program in there. I can't promise anything like that will fly in Upper Ohio. The Boys and Girls Club, Ventura Boys and Girls Club opened up in there. It's a real asset to the community of Oakview and the greater Ojai Valley. There's no limitation on residency for participation in the Boys and Girls Club program there. So, I can't promise you that should that happen in Upper Ojai that we can deliver any of those services. And I can't promise you that the county would move forward with it without a good pro forma showing that it made sense and that there was a program for services that basically aligned with the county's mission of serving the public. Knowing that this was coming and having been quite involved with the Oakview acquisition, I was able to do a little preliminary feasibility analysis. I was able to draw some GIS lines and determine that in a reasonably feasible taxing area. There would be 600 to 700 parcels in the upper Ojai that could be taxed. And the way the tax works, that unlike Oakview, which was a property owner tax, it would be a popular vote tax. So that means that whomever happens to cast a ballot, you have to be a registered voter within the line drawn, but whomever happens to cast a ballot in that election, if 2/3 of those who cast ballots vote in favor, then the tax passes and everybody within that boundary becomes taxed. In Nyland Acres, is a rather low turnout, but they did prevail, did obtain just barely the 2/3 threshold for passing the parcel tax in Nyland Acres of approximately $120 a year. And if you know Nyland Acres, very impoverished community, that was a big lift for them, but they did do it. And so the county takes on these facilities, we operate them. In the case of Oakview, what really made it pencil out for the county is that we're able to get in a contract management outfit, Barbara Kennedy Enterprises. Initially, we had a nonprofit in there that was Interface Children and Family Services that was the permittee and essentially the contract service provider there. But I suspect that given the remoteness of Summit School and the distance from any other county service provision, that if we went that direction, we would probably be looking at wanting to see a similar arrangement where there would be some other entity that would operate it for us. So anyway, back to the feasibility analysis that I did. So 600 or 700 parcels. We don't have a good population count in Ojai these days, Upper Ojai, and it's most likely declined since the fire, since there aren't as many residences up there. So really don't have a good handle on that. We could, should we get far enough along, work with the Elections Division to count the number of registered voters up there. But so roughly, the county realtors estimate that property is worth roughly around $1 million, give or take some change. 600 or 700 parcels. You got a county interest rate that we can borrow money at in 3 or 4% range. So roughly, it's a nut of about $150 per parcel, ballpark figure, that would cover the acquisition and some limited maintenance up there. Now, in the case of both of those other acquisitions, we had our county facility staff do a very thorough due diligence analysis to see what we're getting into there. And we would, of course, have to do that before we got very far with Summit School. But, roughly, as I said, ballpark figure, roughly conceivably possible that a tax of $150 per parcel could cover the purchase and some very low level of maintenance out there per year, $150 per parcel per year, particularly with some rental income such as we have at Oakview School. Don't hold me to those figures. That was just a real back of the envelope thing. And if, for example, the due diligence analysis indicated that there were some lead or asbestos abatement issues, there were some real deficiencies, it's going to be a very high maintenance facility to carry over the next 20 years or something or other, looking at borrowing period of about 20 years, budget period of about 20 years, that would have to be factored into it. So it's basically what I've got.
And you bring that to us the day that property taxes are due.
Yeah. So basically, what Supervisor Bennett wanted to convey is that it's within the realm of possibility, that really to proceed further, it would have to be a community-driven demand for such a thing, and clearly it couldn't go anywhere unless the school district decided to surplus it. We're not advocating, we're not pushing, we got plenty to do, but if there was a strong demand from the community, as there was in Oakview and Nyland Acres, we could get involved and chase it down. Now, with a high tax rate like 100, relatively for taxes, $150 per parcel, we would really want to see a very strong demonstration of willingness to pay from Upper Ojai residents before we started spending the money on any sort of due diligence analysis. So, have to be a very strong showing. before we'd really take this any further. Yes, ma'am?
Is that a flat rate per parcel?
Flat rate, yes,
It's
it
not
would.
proportionate to what they're paying
Flat
for
rate.
taxes,
Per
flat
parcel,
rate.
big or small, rich
So
or poor.
the directive that they would have, would it be similar to the one that the management company now has with regard to the Oakview property?
Well, we would be looking to enter into a contractual relationship with an entity that would management and cover the basic paying the bills, maintaining the property, mowing the lawn, trimming the weeds, doing the fire hazard abatement, doing the basic janitorial, all that
I
sort of
think
thing.
I mean more of what the uses for it are, like
The uses, yeah. Well, with Oakview School, we did form a citizens advisory committee that operated for a number of years, reviewed potential uses and made a recommendation for the county, thumbs up, thumbs down on this one. If it ever, there it's a large facility. I don't know that we really ever had to turn anybody down. Yeah, maybe we did at some points in time. You have a more limited capacity there, so it probably would be some difficult choices that had to be made at Summit School in terms of allocating the available space up there, and we would certainly be looking to some sort of citizens committee. I understand there's an Upper Ojai Neighborhood Council that'd be an ideal vehicle
Who
for
makes
those.
who makes the decision? So say, for example, you've sat here tonight, you've heard there's kind of competing interests of the property.
Well, the county would
Suppose
never get involved until the district decided to surplus it.
I'm
So
just
that-
assuming we're there.
Okay.
Who makes the decision of, Mr. Bailey comes to give a presentation, Ms. Rivers comes and says, I would like a charter school. Does the county advisory
Yeah,
committee?
it's gonna
or-
be a county property. Ultimately, it's gonna be the county decision ultimately. So
Okay.
we would want to see it run through, ideally, the Upper Ojai Neighborhood Council, or perhaps some alternate committee, and there's not that many people up there. I don't know why you'd want to have multiple committees. I wouldn't advise it, but yeah, we would want to see some local input if it came to having to say no to anything, really.
Okay.
Mr. Bennett, or Mr. Offerman.
Steve Jr., yes.
My apologies. I just want to bring something out and have you concur if possible. It's important. I already went through one of these bond issues and evicting Golden State out of here. When you say per parcel, it is a per parcel tax,
Yes.
but it is not an owner vote. It is a
Correct.
registered owner. So
Nope,
if
it's a
you-
registered voter.
Voter. If you own the property and the individual next door rents the property, your votes are equal.
Absolutely.
Ownership of the property does not matter with the vote for this type of a bond to be able to pay.
Well, it's not a bond, it would be a parcel tax.
Parcel tax.
But yeah, right, it's by registered voter, they don't care whether you're a renter or an owner, and in the case of Nyland Acres, they had like 200 people who voted, so, if 2/3 of them voted for it, it taxes the whole community.
Wow.
Well, and the complaint we
typically-
got was that my renters voted for a property tax on me, and that's correct. They did. And so that's how that went down.
Yeah,
with our
renters have
water company.
equal rights to vote for things as landowners, you're absolutely right.
So California
You-
Carbon's gonna
you-
be.
We don't
on.
have the so-called poll tax that they used to have that only property owners got to pay for, or
Right.
vote for.
So the entity that you would enter into an agreement with, they would pay rent, or they would just pay?
No,
for
we would pay them to
service?
operate it for us, basically. Is how it works at these other places. We would pay an operator to be the facility manager, facility operator.
And do you need to,
And you get
show?
to
But you
make
need to
money.
show,
They
like,
paid to do it.
like if you look at something like Oakview, there's like a much larger population there than there is in.
Yeah, Oakview is nearly the size of the city of
Right, so would you have
Ojai.
to show the fact that there are actually, a population up there that would use it to its full use, I guess, or do you have to show that there's
Oh, there's
enough
15
need
minutes.
Well, we would A, it'd have to be surplus by the district, and B, there would have to be a very strong showing of interest and a very strong showing in paying ballpark figure $150 per year amongst the property owners and voters of Upper Ojai. And then we could ultimately, conceivably, if the Board of Supervisors votes to do so, put it on the ballot.
So, Mr. Offerman, it really has to do with value, appraised value and population base to divide into, and the number of parcels. So where Oakview was a much more expensive parcel, they had an awful lot more parcels and a bigger population.
They did.
And so
Yes.
in relationship to Summit, if our figures are within a mile, it's about $12.10 a parcel. If
Per
the
month.
600,
Per month.
if the 600.
Per month.
12.10 a month. And for the 600 on parcels. for
600 to 700 parcels up there,
for
yeah.
a property of less than $1 million.
Roughly, that would float the loan necessary to make the payments on a purchase of somewhere around a
35
million,
cents a
million
day.
and change.
I want you on my jury next time, dude. I like the way you do this, man.
Yeah. So anyway, that was it. You know, we're not here to advocate. We got plenty to do. But if there was a strong community showing of interest, it's something we could rise to. Oh, Barbara, hi.
Can I ask you a question? Can you explain the difference between the parcel tax and the special tax?
Well, in Oakview, we were able to use a provision of law that provided for special benefit assessments. The courts have since shut the door on that. In that particular case, there was a vote of the landowner versus the registered voters, and that is no longer possible in the state of California in circumstances such as this.
Thank you for being.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Barbara?
Got a dinner date with my 91-year-old
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Kennedy. I run Barbara Kennedy Enterprises, which is the managing agent for the Oakview Park and Resource Center, formerly the Oakview Elementary School. Was with the project from the conception. Was one of the many people that knocked on doors for the community to find out what they wanted to do with the property. You know, there was a big hoopla when the school district decided to close it. Our biggest draw to the Oakview Elementary School was the green space that we had. There was no park for 5 miles either direction, Ojai or Ventura. The community, all the kids used that park every day after school. So we were able to obtain a park bond to help purchase that property. That was one of our big leads. We went back and forth with Supervisor Bennett's office, first Supervisor Lacey's office. She wasn't so willing to help us, but Supervisor Bennett devised a plan. And we had a grassroots organization called Save Our School, which became Community Works. And we worked diligently with the county and with the community to find out what they really wanted. The school district had put an advisory group together to find out what the community wanted to do without it just being that community group. They had, I wouldn't really say handpicked the people on the advisory group, the school district themselves, but they made sure that they had somebody, a renter, a owner, business people from different arrays of the community to make sure it was what they really were hearing, everybody that wanted to talk, so to speak. And there was a developer, had money in the bank. Our project was larger, obviously. There's 26 residential lots there. The developers were hot and heavy and wanted that property developed into residences. One of our good things for our community was they didn't want more houses. They wanted to keep that park. They wanted, I remember, I will tell you, and I get emotional when I do this because I grew up in that community. I went to that school. I was born in Ojai. I actually graduated from Chaparral. So I love that program as well, because due to circumstances. But the elderly people that raised their kids and their grandkids in that community were the ones who put their money where their mouth was and said, you know what, we need to say this for these kids. We can't lose these kids in our community. And that was very touching to me. And that was my drive to say, I got to help what these guys want to do. So I truly was inspired by that and felt like I was a voice for the community, that I wasn't just trying to tell everybody what they wanted to hear, that I was actually out there knocking on the doors, talking to the people one-on-one, and hearing their yeses and nos. The larger part of the no's were the people that, there's a divide in Oakview between Ojai and Ventura Unified School District, as you know. There's a small portion of that divide that is Ojai Unified, but they're part of that special tax assessment district. We did a 3-mile radius from that center, because we with our situation down there is we had you have people that were going to be using it from both districts. So we had to go with the property owners themselves, not just a district type of thing. Mostly the older people in Los Encinos weren't happy because their kids were all either graduated or going to high schools, and they didn't really want to touch it. What are we going to do in Oakview? We don't do anything in Oakview. That was our pushback. But there were so many people in Oakview that really wanted this, and Miramani, because a lot of the older Miramani people had gone to Oakview School before those lines got switched again and again and again through Ohio Ventura Unified School District. The library being an anchor was huge. Originally, I worked for Interface Children Family Services. They were the nonprofit anchor. And they were put in place so that, as we talked about the prevailing wage issue, county owns a property, county has to have prevailing wage. When Interface was a managing agent, we were able to move funds around a little bit differently, as somebody was referring to, that didn't have to do the prevailing wage. So if we got a donation, we could spend that money differently than we could a grant.
Is
That's
Interface
probably
a
the easiest way.
nonprofit? Sorry to interrupt.
Interface Children Family Services was a nonprofit, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were. And so we were able to use funds much differently than you would if it was just a county-ran property. The county also required the liability. So I worked for Interface for 5 years and contracted to manage the facility, bring everything up to code. The building was boarded up when I got there. Water wasn't running, all of those things were happening. As we brought it up little by little, and then Interface had a new director who decided that they weren't really focused in Oakview anymore. They were really focused in Camarillo area, Ventura County, the other end of Ventura County. So the county approached me to ask if I was ready to become the property manager myself. So that's why I'm not a nonprofit, because I'd already been there and established and had all this, as they would call, knowledge equity in the site, knowing what was happening there, knowing everything about the site. So they allowed me to become the property manager. Now, I have to carry complete liability on that site. All of the utilities, everything is in my name. So the county funds that are taken from the Special Tax Assessment District simply reimburse me for the funds I spend for utilities. The rents that we receive cover those costs. I wouldn't say we make a lot of money, because I work really hard to keep those costs down. I've got the Forest Services there this week running their education class, right? I do a lot of public classes when I can. I work with nonprofits at a lower rate than working with if somebody wants to have a general public or private party. Their costs are different than I would be for a nonprofit, because I try to keep it as community related as I can. We have girls softball there, Ohio Little League there. We have AYSO in the soccer field. So maintaining the fields are a really big part to me. We just received a big grant from the water district to manipulate some of those fields a little differently, so we're not using quite so much water. Let me see what else. Our certified kitchen. We brought the kitchen up to certified kitchen, which we call a community kitchen. We call it a community kitchen because technically we're zoned residential, as this property is. And you can't do corporate business, so to speak, on residential property. That makes you have a conditional use permit, which is what we do have there to operate, conditional use permit. So we brought the kitchen up. I have several 4 or 5 cooks that come in there on a daily or weekly basis that make their goods and sell them elsewhere. We also have cooking classes. We also use the kitchen for fundraisers, and Boys and Girls Club will have like their holiday party and things like that there. We've got our auditorium still. It's a huge meeting space for the community. The Water District has workshops there all the time. But really being part of that community and what are their needs. And when we first were obtaining that property, the county, this is before I was quite in charge, the county had hired an architect out of Santa Barbara. And he had this $30,000 plan on what to put on that site, working with the director before me. And realizing now so many things that we didn't do, and so grateful we didn't do them. A skate park next to the library. I mean, there was all these little things that you don't know until you're massaging that piece of property for what the needs of the community are, and trying to stay as open as you possibly can to what their needs really, really are. And they come out. They come out. Whether that's a charter school or the kind of program that you have going on there. I know the property's much smaller than than what we have down there. The community gardens, we've got a community garden down there. There's just so many different programs that are happening. The Head Start, obviously Nan Tolbert, Boys and Girls Club, the Teen Center was huge. That's finally just waiting list long. It's thriving. Everything is thriving
I
down
have a
there.
question for you.
Yeah.
How long was the school shut down before you stepped in and formed this?
1999 was their last year that they taught school. And I'll be honest with you, it was hush-hush that school was closing until about March. They were closing in June.
Okay.
The parents found out about it. Everybody was in an uproar because I remember passing out the flyers that their last little end-of-the-year carnival that they had. So once we got word of it, we went to the school district and we had stacks of signatures of people wanting to save the property for the community. Many nights at school board meetings trying to, convince them to give us a chance. And that's what we did, we convinced them to give us a chance to find out what the community really wants.
Does this all sound familiar? Like you
Oh,
went through
absolutely.
what we're going through.
Absolutely, and we had the charter schools too. The deal with this, I'll be honest with you, the deal with Ventura Unified School District was when they sold the property to us, to the county, they had an agreement with the county that it would not be used as a competing school. So we weren't allowed to have a charter school there. Because it would be competing with the elementary school, which the numbers were lower at anyway.
Did the community want a school there?
They didn't. They really wanted it as a resource for the community. Continuing education classes, adult education classes, which is something that's never really came to fruition, but we've wanted it to. Yes, they definitely wanted that, but the numbers we had 3 schools when I grew up there. We had Santa Ana, Oakview, and Arnez. No, Santa Ana and Oakview were deemed surplus at the same time. So if the numbers were so low down, 3 schools went to 1 school. So I can see why they were concerned about that. That's their tax base, So there was that was the only really big stipulation, other than we had park bond funds that helped pay for it. There's the Lighting Act. There's all those other things that, as you guys are well aware, that come into play now. We couldn't have lights at the park and things like that. We couldn't add anything that wasn't already there, so to speak. And we had to have the conditional use permit dictated what kind of hours that we can be open, so that we weren't invading on the community or the residents so much.
So have you modified your conditional use permit over time?
Yes,
Or-
but not a lot. It's pretty close to the first go around. So that was 2002 is when the property was actually bought by the County of Ventura. So really, it was only a 2.5, 3-year process from talking about it to going through all of this stuff with the school district, to going through all this stuff with the county, the special tax assessment benefit. Originally we borrowed, I think it was like $20,000 from the county just to put the flyer out there to see if anybody was interested. But we knew by our numbers of people who were interested in keeping the property that we had something there. We knew that, we're really talking for the community here. So the Supervisor Bennett's office was gracious enough to say, you know what, this looks like something that might actually work. And he worked with us quite well to devise that plan. And then when the special tax assessment went out and the property was bought, the county was paid back their funds.
Can you tell us about the park bond in relation to the funds? You mentioned a park bond.
There was money that was available through a park bond, and so we have to keep our 4 acres of green space. I'm sorry, 2 acres of the 4 acres of green space.
Your place is a 4-acre facility?
4.25. 4.27 acres.
So ours is a little bit bigger. Interesting.
Oh, yours is bigger?
Yeah.
But you have more buildings.
More buildings.
We have more buildings. We've got 10 classrooms, a couple of sets of restrooms, a multi-purpose room, and a smaller multi-purpose room, which is our art studio. Have a lot of 12-step programs, things like that going on there in the evenings. Yeah. So, any other questions you guys have?
Have you been to Upper Ojai Summit School?
Just once or twice.
Do you?
I'm familiar with Upper Ojai quite well, but I've only been to the school. I don't even know why I was there a few times.
Without someone like you running the current facility, how would it run if you weren't around?
I don't know that it would.
Yeah.
There has to be somebody who's the driving force. I have to say that. I can't tell you how many times people have said, "What happens when you leave?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't plan on being there for as long as I am. I've been there for 15 years now, 16 years almost in June." But it's been, like I said, it's been such a blossoming thing that goes in these different directions at different times, that it's definitely community fed, you know? And that's what makes it so special.
So,
How much use do you have during the daytime, like during school hours?
It's really interesting because people will go by there and go, there's nothing going on here. And I'm like, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we got a daycare that goes from 8 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. We've got Nan Tolbert that has classes 4 or 5 days a week, usually from like 9 to 11. The library starts from 1 to 6. Boys and Girls Club is an after-school program for Sunset Elementary School, so all the kids get dumped off there at 2:30. It's a full-time Boys and Girls Club when it's vacation time, so there's a lot of kids there. Sometimes it seems really quiet, and that's why we can have the Forest Service use the classrooms. Then we have the kitchen going on.
Professional thing, more professional.
Kitchen at the same time. And then the afternoons, we have scheduled play. You got one day's Little League, one day's girls softball, one day's AYSO, or sometimes two of them at the same time. We can have anywhere from 200 to 500 people there a day, but you'd never know it if you drove by. Because it just seems to be staggered.
And during the summer, sorry.
It's actually a little bit more lower key because there's not quite so many kids at Boys and Girls Club, but Boys and Girls Club becomes an 8 to 5 program. So it's filling a whole different need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the Boys and Girls Club during the summer is open to anybody in the valley. It's not just the Sunset schools. Kids.
When you presented a business plan to the county, did you have to show what entities would take part? Like,
we
did you have to
definitely.
show that, like, all these people are gonna
we talked with the library. We were pretty confident that the library would come down. The Ojai Valley Library Friends and Foundation donated $100,000 to our project. So that revamped the whole library. And we were able to use those funds directly from them to the contractor. We didn't have to do prevailing wage. We didn't do all of that stuff because we didn't have to.
You said it was boarded.
Yes.
Maintenance,
Yep.
how much was the startup cost? Where'd you get that kind of money?
It
And-
wasn't
and
all
then-
done at once.
And then how about the maintenance? How are you able to keep this thing up?
Um,
What kind of a budget?
I
is
can
that?
tell you that I know that he talked about the lead and that type of thing. A lot of those things were taken care of when it was a school, which was interesting because everybody's like going, "Oh, you can't be here. It's dangerous," and it's all that. I literally have one asbestos pipe in a maintenance room that nobody gets to, and the lead that they thought was in the floor was actually, I found documentation from the school that was all in the 80s. All that had to come out. So that was all taken care of ahead of time. There is, as you guys know with old schools, there's lead in the paint of the doors, but you have to keep it encapsulated, so to speak, keep things painted. But we little by little, as I rented a room out, we replaced broken windows. Or we did carpet, or we bartered. We did a lot of bartering. If you paint and put the windows in, we'll do this or do that. There was a lot of bartering going on. We have an enormous donor wall of people, in-kind donations. Their time was huge. The community involvement, rolling up their sleeves and really, really coming to paint parties and digging up gardens and all of those things was phenomenal. And it still is. It still is.
Who makes the determination at the property as to who gets to use it? Is that you or
Pretty
do you have
much
a
me at this
board?
point. The county has me submit a budget to them every year,
Okay.
and they approve it or disapprove it. Because I am the managing agent, so it's like I'm leasing it. However, the county pays me to be there. It's a little unorthodox, as you would probably say, because I don't get to collect any of the rents. None of that comes to me. So a regular property manager would take a portion of those rents, right? I'm holding all the liability. The general liability policy is under Barber Kennedy Enterprises above the county of Ventura. So that's a tricky thing on me, but I'm there. I'm dealing with all these things. I'm looking at hazards constantly. I'm managing it personally on a personal level.
So you're unpaid?
I'm paid. I get paid.
You take it, and how, it's like a full-time job for you?
It's a part-time job.
Part-time job.
Part-time job. I have a park host there, and they're required so many hours a week as well. They help me with security at the site.
And so suppose you're at your site and you
Mhm.
have someone that says, I would like to run something like Rock Tree Sky and I would like to run a charter school. You individually say, I'm the one that's gonna make that determination as to who gets to use it.
We've had a board in the past. My board's just not as involved because they don't need to be. There's nothing for them to do because everything's full.
Already.
Everything's full. I mean, no, I still have a board. I'm just saying that it doesn't, there's no Yeah, it's hard to keep their interest when there's nothing for them to do. Yeah, but we knew with the charter school, it was already a no, because that was in the agreement with the school district when they sold the property, that it couldn't compete with their classes. The other things, it's a fit. You gotta see what's a fit, and if there's issues like in the very beginning, the board, we'd all get together and say, is that gonna work or not? Steve Offerman mentioned martial arts. We had a martial arts class there. Then we found out that the county liability policy didn't cover it. Well, they had to go away because we realized if they're not gonna cover it, I'm not gonna cover it. You know what I mean? So there was some growing pains along the way, absolutely. But the open palette of what the possibilities were amazing, just amazing, and they still are. Like I said, it's still ever growing.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Jim. Jim, if the time that you aren't using in your classroom time, would you be willing, if you were under the contract, to take a similar management role for the needs of community uses?
For time after program, like
That's right.
outside program manage those uses?
Mhm.
Yes.
And or would you also be open to having a community use board that would make recommendations to you for uses as well?
That'd be great. I'd love to work with the Upper Ojai neighborhood community to manage those things. In fact, I reached out to Trevor to say at the next community meeting, it'd be nice to hear from people what uses they would like, what shared uses they would like for the site.
For the additional stuff, the time that you're not using it.
Yeah, and asked if I could speak to them and hear some feedback so that, if we end up there, that we could meet those needs.
So you would basically be taking on a position like hers for the management of.
Calendaring it, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I imagine if I held the lease, I would want to have some, some awareness of who's there when, there's.
Yeah, you have to if you're
Especially
managing.
with our
One of the things the
liability
county
policy.
required me to do is to become a corporation as well.
Yeah,
There's all of those things that took place, so, yeah. Any more questions? No? Good.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Who's up next? I can't remember. I have the order written down. I think it's Thea, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I brought it for everyone.
I need copies of what I was saying, because I thought it
Oh, no, I
might.
just want you to know, what you sent me, they do that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I need copies of this. I didn't know if maybe you might want to reference it later or whatever.
Todd.
So I'm Thea Wilcox. I live in Upper Ojai. I have 3 boys, 8, 6, and 4, and we were at Summit last year. I was the treasurer of the Summit PTO, and I'm now the treasurer for Condor Kids. So I'm going to give you 2 updates. Condor Kids and the Summit Charter, they're not affiliated. So I'm just going to do the Condor Kids really quick and take some questions, and then I'll do the Summit Charter if that's okay.
2 separate entities?
2 separate things, yes. Condor Kids is its own nonprofit and runs it. I'll give you a little update right now for people who don't know or aren't familiar with it. Condor Kids came out of the Summit parent-teacher organization. When Summit was closed temporarily, the majority of the PTO did not feel that OUSD supported the school or would help reopen the school. So therefore, they voted to dissolve the PTO. Myself, along with a few other parents and community members, felt that the nonprofit organization could still serve the children by providing activities that children could attend and see their classmates. This would give them a feeling of continuity and help mitigate the loss of their school and also the experience of the Thomas Fire. We changed the name of our organization to Condor Kids, which was our after-school program, with the same mission of serving the local children. Last summer, we ran Summerfest. It was a weekly playtime with varying activities. It ran July through August, and we had an average of 15 kids. In the fall, we began an after-school art class and a garden club. We have an average of 12 students at art and 5 at garden. We are in room 5 of the Summit campus, and our classes are open to all children, any age, and are completely free. So that's the Condor Kids part, and that's just part of, we created that just to help the kids deal with the closing of the school and the fire, and they get to see each other and just provide that stable community. Do you have any questions for, yeah?
The 12 kids, are they all Upper Ojai residents?
No.
Where are they from?
I have some from Valley Oak Charter, so Ojai and Santa Paula and Upper Ojai.
But you're currently in there.
I'm
Yes.
currently in
You're
room 5,
yeah,
yes.
Okay, and working alongside,
Jim, yeah, I
Okay.
get along really well with Jim.
Okay.
I've actually asked, I mean, just to speak to Jim, I've asked, I'm very willing to partner with Jim. I'm very transparent with Jim. I've been very clear from the beginning that I am a public school supporter, that I'm going to try to reopen the public school, that the community needs a public school to be successful, so we have a good working relationship. Any other questions about Condor Kids? Okay, so Summit Charter. I'm just going to give you a little background so you kind of know where this came from and how it came about. I've been an active participant in the Summit discussion since May of 2018. Since that time, I've made arguments for keeping Summit open. I've spoken to the board at public meetings. I've spoken to the board members individually. I've met with Andy many times, many phone calls. I've repeatedly asked for assistance to come up with an idea, a program, grants, anything that we could do to move our school district forward and help revitalize our upper Ojai area by reopening a public school at Summit. I and others have received no tangible resources from the board or the district. A lot of nice talking, a lot of discussion, nothing that's actually could be done or to help the position. I was very committed to working with the school district until last fall, when I realized that instead of putting together any type of committee or assistance to look at how we can better our public school system, they were instead going to put together a 7-Eleven committee, which would in turn deem the property surplus or not. So they were spending their time and efforts to put together a 7-Eleven committee. Instead of putting together a small group of interested people that wanted to reopen the school, that sent a very clear message to me. They were not interested in reopening a school. They were not interested in keeping the public resources public. So at that point, I really felt my volunteer hours were not well spent working on a program and then handing it over to the district to do whatever they would like to do with it. So at that point, I began speaking to any parent that I came across in the valley. At basketball, at the park, at the library, anywhere. I would ask these people, where do you go to school? How many kids do you have? Do you like your school? What kind of program do you want to see? I got a lot of really good feedback, and a very strong theme emerged that many parents didn't feel like Matilaha was the best fit for middle school, but had no other alternatives. I also received quite a bit of input as to what kind of programs parents would find attractive. So we formed a committee and combined all the input and came up with an outline of a program. This has led to the flyer that you should have. As you know, this is a huge project and very time consuming. So far we have developed an outline of the curriculum and are circulating a flyer and an interest sheet to conduct an informal needs assessment. We have just finished this part that I'm talking about last week. So this is a very new turn. I've done a 180-degree turn from badgering the school district, trying to work with the school district, to now saying, okay, I'm going to do my own thing and see where I go from there. So I've just completed that initial first step. Our program would be academically forward with a focus on language acquisition and environmental science. We would like to see a traditional school that utilizes progressive techniques to engage children and promote a love of learning. We want to create a small school culture where every child feels valued. So why would a charter school at Summit thrive? As our public school enrollment is declining, the quality of OUSD education is also declining. We need to maintain our school population and create a more successful public school system in Ojai. If we look at the geography of our valley, we can predict where new students may come from. At one end of the valley, we have a Ventura Unified K-8, Sunset, that has better scores than our Ojai schools. Their K-5 grades are not full, but their middle school is. Ventura Unified is also suffering from decreasing enrollment. Of course, not as much as Ojai, but it is decreasing. In fact, not many people will be traveling from Ventura past Sunset to our OUSD elementary and middle schools. On the opposite side of the valley, we have a neighboring city that suffers no low enrollment issues. In fact, There are several new housing developments happening in Santa Paula. The Rosewood Track, which is 7.2 miles and 11 minutes from Summit Elementary, is planning 36 new homes. The Oaks, which is about 8 miles from Summit off Ojai Road, is planning 19 new homes. And last but not least, the Limonera build has scheduled a grand opening for April 27th and is set to build 1,500 new homes. Currently, there are no K-8 school models in the Santa Paula School District. As you head up the mountain towards Ojai, there is a single school district that has a K-8, Mupu. This school has even better scores than Sunset. It is 6 miles from Summit. It is full. They are not taking any new student enrollments at this time. I have personal experience as I am on the wait list at that school. I personally know of 8 Ojai Unified students that are at that school right now. Let's review. We know that we have Ojai Valley families that are interested in an alternative middle school program. We know the closest Ventura Unified K-8 is full for middle school. We know that there is another K-8, Mupu, 6 miles towards Santa Paula, that is completely full. We know that there are many housing developments already underway in Santa Paula. These are all strong arguments that a public charter school with a solid academic program would be successful at the Summit site. We do not believe that Upper Ojai should lose their neighborhood public school because the board and the district lack resources and vision. As our district is declining, the school culture, has become very competitive instead of collaborative. We are not creating this charter to try to exacerbate that issue. The charter school is our last choice. I would much rather work with the district to reopen our school. I have asked the board and the district to give me a program to market. I've received nothing. We want to be embraced by Ojai Unified School District and become a strategic partner that shares resources. Upper Ojai's success is Ojai Valley's success. Creating a charter is a way to relieve OUSD of the burden of creating a new program, but still have a public school at Summit. The charter school would also create revenue for the district via oversight fees. I would ask you, the members of the 7-Eleven committee, to see me. I am an OUSD parent. I have vision. I have drive. I want a K-8 public school in Upper Ojai. The district is already receiving money for the site. There is absolutely no reason to move forward with a long-term lease at this time. According to recent conversations with Sandy Ridge with the California Department of Education, the property does not need to be deemed surplus to be converted to a charter. Summit Elementary is a public school site and should remain that way. Do not recommend to surplus the property and allow the district to monetize the only public space in Upper Ojai. Recommend to the board to support the reopening of a public school. The end. Any questions?
So you want to keep it open for Santa Paula students 8 miles away?
No, sir. I want to bring in new students. I want to create an attractive program that helps the school district become more viable and therefore gives all our public students a better education. Because what happens is when the school district is shrinking and we're still paying for all these resources, we have less and less kids, guess what? There's no nurse, there's no psychologist, there's no aide to help somebody with tutoring with reading. Everybody suffers as the district shrinks. So it's short-sighted.
But the bulk of the students that you're talking about bringing in are going to be from the 1,500 new developments in Santa Paula.
Well, I can't really say exactly where all our students would say, but I would say we get a good amount coming from out of district, yeah.
Okay.
But I definitely have people that have already signed my petition that are in OUSD.
Okay.
Many people.
How many people?
Well, we'll just leave that. Yeah, that is a process that, Annie, is a very long process. You have to take step by step, and I would like to make that presentation to the board when I am ready. But I do have enough signatures for the conversion, and I literally finished this flyer last week, and I've already had people signing. So I do have interest.
Could you come back and tell us the number?
I
soon?
Could with some more time. Yes, I could.
Because that's a pretty big thing of what we're trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
I understand that. Like I said, the time thing is just like a huge project.
Yeah.
Yes.
You went to the school board meetings, a lot of them.
I'm
More-
sorry, Trevor. Can you just talk?
You went to the school board meetings.
Yes.
having sat through those school board meetings, don't you feel that the issue of whether or not the school should remain open was debated and decided upon already by the school board?
Yes, I do. And I think they were very wrong and very short-sighted, which is why I've come to the school board, made presentations. I said, give me a program that you think you could support. Give me 3 months to market it. See how many people I can get signed up. Because what they said was the reason we closed Summit, the quality of the education wasn't good enough, low enrollment. Okay, we will close it temporarily pending increased enrollment. Okay, give me something to market. Let me increase the enrollment. Give it to me. Nothing. Nothing.
I think that what's working in other school districts is Sunset K through 8. Mupu is full K through 8. I mean, I think those are good indications of what people are interested in. Plus, the other thing is, people drive to schools. Like Kim drove from Piru, and there's other people that drove. They drive from all over to Mr. Bailey's school, right? I mean, a school can have a wide attraction for a lot of reasons if it has some substance.
I thought we decided, and this is what, our third meeting now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the issue was not whether or not the Summit should be used as a public school. The issue is whether it should be deemed surplus property.
So my presentation.
Hold on, please, let me finish.
Go ahead.
I thought that issue was already decided by the school board, litigated, done with.
What issue was decided?
The issue that we are supposed to decide, which is on page 3 of our original binder, was should the Summit School be deemed surplus property? That's the issue before the 7-Eleven committee.
Excuse me, Trevor.
Hold on one second, please.
Temporarily closed.
Right. They
I
temporarily
understand that.
closed.
I understand that.
They didn't
I'm
tell
sorry,
you
can
you
I
had to
speak?
be
Because I'm up
surplus.
here. I mean, you can speak, but can I speak back to you? Or because
course.
the issue is that what I'm telling you is there's a potential for a school, and by you deeming it surplus, you might be cutting that off. I'm telling you that there's something here, and it's my duty to convey that information to you. Now, the school board might have decided, hey, this is not for us, or what we can't do, whatever, but that doesn't mean it's not viable. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, and that doesn't mean it won't be successful.
Understand. So what you would want us to do is to say, no, this is not surplus property, school board. Go figure out how to reopen it as a public school.
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm asking you to do. That we have a neighborhood up there that needs a public school, and that it will be helpful to the neighborhood, help revitalize everything. It will help bring people into the district. It's a win-win for everybody.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Is it the K through 8 that is attractive to the people that you've spoken to, or is it that there's an alternative middle school option? Because you said Sunset, the K through 5 is not full. But the middle school portion is full. So is that what people are seeking? I totally get it.
Yeah.
I got a kid going into
No.
7th grade next
So
year.
here's what I found out. I
totally
mean, I
get
must have talked to, I didn't document every conversation, but more than 100 people. So being outside is really exciting to a lot of people in Ojai. They like that kind of area. The idea of doing environmental science outside, the idea of language acquisition, kids being exposed to Spanish from kindergarten, not exactly immersion level, but where Spanish is introduced so that when they get to high school, they're already speaking conversational Spanish, big attractive to people. They really want to see that. Really want to see that. Then, on top of it, the cherry on the top is, yeah, Matilaha isn't for everybody. And people don't have options. Mupu is not an option, it's closed. And Sunset is an option, but it's quite a bit of drive. So for some people, Summit is closer or more convenient for them. Or they would choose it because it's an Ojai Unified School District. You know, from being from Ojai, it's like, oh, you went to Nordhoff? You're from Ojai. Ojai. Like, there's definitely some loyalty there to the Ojai Unified School District, which is why I was so insistent on trying to develop something with them.
Okay. Second
Yes.
part of my question is, in order to open a charter school, it has to have the backing of the school district?
Okay, I don't.
No. Andy's saying no. Okay.
Are you
Okay.
shaking your head behind me, Andy? How dare you?
I just thought I'd heard that earlier tonight.
So there, I don't know every little thing because, like I said, this is a 180 turn for me, and I'm quickly trying to educate myself as fast as I can. But what Andy was saying before, like if we have, they say 80, but Andy's saying the reason Andy's saying 86 is because that's an average of 80. Yeah, okay, it's not a guess. So if we have that amount of people, we have more power to say, this is a site we want. We have 80 OUSD students, give it to us.
Okay.
But let me just jump in. You're actually asking me a separate question from what you're answering.
I am not answering correctly,
There's
sorry.
two separate questions here. One is, how does a charter actually come into existence? And the second one is, where do they actually exist?
To use that property. That would be more specific.
So the first question is how they come into existence, and it's not based on 86 kids or any other number. They have to establish, it's usually about somewhere between 30 and 100 pages of a charter document that they have to prove all these different steps of how they're able to
You come up with a curriculum and a
create their plan,
budget.
do it to
And
fidelity.
Got it, okay.
And then the board, the local school district is the first entity to which they would go to receive their charter.
authorization is when they call it, like the authorizing body.
So if the school district had concerns that we don't think that you can effectively implement your program for whatever reason, or there are other things like that, they can say, no, we are declining this charter application. They have a recourse, though, from if they disagree with the district's assessment, then they go to the county. If the county agrees with the district, they still have another appellant body. They can go straight up to the state, and they can become authorized by the state. So they don't have to have local authorization.
They can go to other cities too.
But to use.
Like
For a
Cape.
classroom-based program, there's some
I mean,
distinctions, but
like
there
Cape
are.
in Camarillo, I think went through Oxnard.
So
Yep.
remember, Oxnard actually operates in all of Cameron as well, the high school district. But yes, Kuyama would be an example of, there's an online program that's now marketing themselves in our community here that is actually, I believe, based out of Bakersfield, but got Kuyama to become their authorizing district, but they're an online-based program, and so they're trying to market kids from anywhere to get them into their online program. So yeah, to your point, it is possible to authorize from another district, but there's a lot more nuances.
So you need the petition, you need
Got all
some
that, got all
signatures, then you gotta get authorized,
But-
and then you can get a site.
To use the site. So say all that stuff happened, and then to use Summit School, you'd have to have OUSD.
It would have to be the local decision makers, which would be the school district, would have to give me the site.
Okay.
Or give the committee, give us the
I
site.
have third question.
Sure.
And it's gonna put you on the
Jeez,
spot. I
Jessica.
know, question. So it's gonna put you on the
That's
spot
all right,
a
I'm
little
already
bit.
sweating, go for it.
Not in that way, you should be able to answer it, just you don't wanna answer it. Okay, so you said you've done this shift, cause you have, last time I saw you, you were still in your, other, so.
Magnet school,
Right,
yeah.
right, so a couple months, it's been a couple months since we
Yeah.
talked about it last. So in this period of time, can you give us an estimate of how many people are saying, yes, a charter school at Summit School, and I'm not gonna hold you to a strict
Okay.
number, I just need to know, I would like to know the general enthusiasm behind it, cause, I mean, you might think 25 is enthusiastic, and I might think 100 is, so.
Well, that is
just out of
the hard
curiosity.
thing. Remember, we only had 40 kids last year,
Right,
so
right,
let's
right.
not
I'm
get.
No, I know, and again, it's not to put you on the spot, it's just.
No, I can give you
how
general
many months
es-
have you been working
So-
on it, and give me a general idea?
Okay, so I
please.
literally have been working on it for 6 weeks,
Okay,
8 weeks, okay,
perfect.
since after Christmas and all of that, and I started head down on it. I have spoken to at least 25 families in the Ojai Valley school system that are interested in a K through 8.
Okay,
And I have signatures from half of our student body of when we were open that are interested in a charter conversion. Those are not Ojai Unified School District kids, though, not all of them.
Summit student body.
Yes, I have
Okay.
half those kids.
So to be clear, about
I
45
don't know that
potentially
number off the top
interested.
of my head. Sorry.
So to be clear, about 45 potentially interested, if I'm doing that math.
And but these are families, so these are people with maybe more than one kid. So that is why I start. So this is why the next step in the process is a needs assessment. I need to do I need to have the program, right, to get people, and then I need the interest sheet so I can see how many kids they have, so that's the next step to giving it integrity. And that's time consuming. It's gonna take me months, because I'm gonna have to do marketing, I'm gonna have to do meetings, I'm gonna have to do mailers, I'm gonna have to do all kinds of stuff.
So you
Yes.
mentioned all the Santa Paula stuff. What percentage of students do you expect from Santa Paula with all these new developments and things that you were talking about?
I don't know, but I think a lot. But I do think that more Ojai people than I thought. Honestly, I'm surprised. I would have said that I would have answered you this way. The majority of our kids are going to come from Santa Paula. But once I have changed my thought, once I have done all this talking to people, I thought, ooh, a K through 8. Well, of course, the school board hates that idea. Big time. But as soon as I thought K through 8, Ojai people are really excited about it. They're interested. So hopeful.
Would we be providing transportation to Santa
I'm
Paula?
thinking about, that Summit, I didn't know this, but somebody told me that Summit used to do a bus down to Santa Paula too. I had no idea. Why can't we do a bus down to Pecali's?
And
There's all kinds of things we could do to make it easier.
what do you think your timeline is? Like if you're
I'm-
going to open, like if you could.
2020. That's what the flyer says, that's what the interest sheet is, that's when my goal is, that's what I'm shooting for.
2020 with, you just guess, you don't know, but about 45 possible students?
I don't know that
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, so sometimes what charter schools do is they don't just boom, K through 8. They do K through 3rd. And every year they add a grade. Or they try to do something more manageable, because it is, as Andy knows, a really big job to run a school. So, it's a big undertaking.
Let's go back and talk about some finances.
Okay.
We have plenty of schools that are school of choice. Oak Park is one. I think they're the best school in the county.
Yeah.
And they pander from all over the Canadian Valley, so they have a lot of kids that get to go there. They offer diversity, they've got their cadaver class, they got all their other fun stuff that nobody else has. And
Yeah.
if you're Agora, you're gonna give Latin. And what you can do is that allows you to manipulate your athletes from school to school to school, because I want to take this and it's not available here. There was a great article 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago in the LA Times, about how some of these school districts have gone viral with charter schools. They're adding charter after
Oh,
charter after
authorizing
charter.
20 million schools and getting money, their
Yeah.
oversight fees. Yeah, I read that one.
And
That
they
was,
and they get the oversight fees. The school district can actually make money by charging extra money to the charters. Okay.
because a lot of times you pay for services. A lot of times a charter isn't just freestanding. You don't just get the oversight
Right, they
fees.
can charge you 3%.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to do your HR services, food, I don't know, all kinds of,
We
yeah.
have a lot of districts making money now.
Yeah.
That weren't making money, that had very small districts, that are huge districts now because they've expanded charters like crazy. I'm not really much for charters, by the way.
Yeah, me neither, Bob.
I just want to make sure that if we're gonna have the discussion, let's put everything in place so everybody actually understands how the
Okay.
commission works. Because they're a charter school doesn't mean the school district loses. Has to lose money. They can lose money.
No.
But they don't have to lose money.
No, they don't have to lose money. And honestly, like I said right here, charter school isn't even my first choice. The school was just closed in June. That's less than a year ago. So school closed, I'm out. We got a new successful program there that can't share the space because of the way their program is and their cohort. I'm being backed into a corner. I have no choice but to come out fighting because public resources should be made available to Upper Ojai residents. That's it.
I agree with you.
And Jim, you understand that getting the kids from Santa Paula to a charter school is what school districts are doing now. Certainly doing it in Canadian
Well, you
Valley.
also have to, James, you have somebody at Rock Tree Sky, right?
No.
No, you don't. Have you been up to Summit?
Yeah.
So you know exactly where it sits. It sits just like right on the border. So a lot of people, even though with Ojai addresses, affiliate themselves with Santa Paula.
Sure.
So we do get and that's when I was talking about the geography of the valley, when you're thinking about what is going to just at least maintain our school or at least try to bolster it up. I mean, there's only
But we
one way
had
to
that
get
before,
in.
right?
Yes,
I mean, that
but
hasn't changed.
yeah, I know, I
We're-
agree with
we're-
you,
we're
but
getting
guess
over-
what?
we're way
The
over
people
time.
change, the
Let's-
time
let's,
changes, the passion changes. I agree with you. That's true. People were passionate before, but it's here. It can happen. It's viable. Anybody else? Thank you.
Please tell us that binder's not for telling me.
All right.
15 minutes, girl.
Your time's up, sit down, sorry.
Thank you for your time.
It's nothing but love, come on.
Hi, it's so nice to see.
Hold on one second, wait.
Yeah, I'm trying to
That's
cancel
okay,
this. It doesn't
Bob.
like to cancel. There we go. Jeez.
It's really great to see all of you people, see so many people I don't know. Of course, Lauren I know extremely well. Lauren has been in the trenches with us as an amazing PTO president for Summit. When you talk about knowledge equity, this is your person. One of our leading parents for many years is our president, and where Summit is and what it means to all of our residents is in great part due to Lauren and her family. And I won't go there, but the whole issue about scores, like it's statistically insignificant at the state level, but I'll tell you, Lauren's kids made our numbers go off the charts in terms of being like the best school district and the best school in Ohio Unified. I don't think I'm even exaggerating. Yes, I'm gonna get there. Thank you. So my name is Mary Ann Ratcliffe. I'm a parent of 2 children who attended Summit School. I'm a parent of a Nordoff sophomore. I was a member of your 7-Eleven committee, so don't laugh, but this is the binder that we had, because we looked at every single school in Ohio Unified. And by the way, our decision was to keep Summit School open. We had 13 meetings. They were just like this one, sometimes longer, and it was quite the process. And we saw all sorts of possibilities. We have a whole list of recommendations for what the district can do. Just interestingly, when Hank Bangser, the former superintendent, wanted to have a 7-Eleven committee, he realized he had to look at the entire district, that the entire district issue of declining enrollment had to be addressed, not one by one, a one-off, but as an entire district. And let me just continue. I have served on the Summit School PTO as the secretary for 8 some years. Since my kids started in kindergarten. I served on the Summit School Site Council. I've been the Matilaha Junior High Parent-Teacher Organization president for several years. I served on the Matilaha Site Council and served on the Ohio Education Foundation for 8 years. We, as you know, all parents who are sitting here have just busted their humps raising money for the district and doing everything they can to help it succeed. And that's why I'm here today, is because Summit School is an integral part of assisting Ohio Unified with its declining enrollment issue. And don't just hear it from me, please. And I've shared this with poor Andy, so he's heard this spiel so many times at school board meetings, but I feel like I have an opportunity with people who have not heard me speak before about these issues that I feel so strongly about. So on the front page of the Ohio Valley News back in 2011-12, I don't know if you recall, there were the terrible, wrenching budget cuts that the district had to face, and it was laying off so many teachers. And we said, look, we really want to keep our 3rd teacher. We loved all of our teachers. They were amazing. And Hank said, well, yeah, we can do that. He goes, you just need like 20 plus students. And we're like, really? That's all? Okay. And we were able to, in a very short period of time, Kim Rivers was a part of that process. The entire PTO worked. We had flyers, we had banners, we were conversing. And so Hank said on the front page of the Ohio Valley News, the solution is actually making us, the Ohio Unified School District, money. Bangor enthused. It is the only school in the district that really had an opportunity like this. Things are going smoothly with the addition of 20 plus new students, is what the principal said. There's a really good vibe on the campus. Okay. I have my Cliff Notes version, and I have just a few other comments that I wanted to speak as other people were speaking. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes to start. My key points are, and it goes to your question, Trevor, like, hey, I thought we talked about this already. It's got to be really clear that you understand that the school board voted in June of 2018 to temporarily close Summit School. The fire had only hit us, when they first started discussing it, had only hit us 5 months before, and families were still reeling. The reason that you don't see a lot of Upper Ojai people here is because they are wiped out. They are working hard to rebuild. It's hard for them to come down to the district and talk, but they have come to the Upper Ojai council meetings to talk about it. And at the first meeting, I think it was 6 days after the school board voted to temporarily close Summit, there was a petition that was just passed around at I think one of the very first, maybe one of the first meetings, on June 12th, because Trevor started the Upper Ojai Council. 55 signatures, and the bulk of the people who were at that meeting. I've got several of those copies. I can just pass them around for you. Signed the petition, 55 plus, and that was just at that one meeting. They said they supported a public school at Summit. So I got to tell you this, and it pains me to say this, but on December 7th, on a Friday, right before Christmas vacation, at that point, only 6 months since the school had been temporarily closed, we saw the agenda that came out on that Friday night. I happened to be in Canada at my aunt's 90th birthday, that it was on the agenda for the following Wednesday to close Summit School indefinitely. And without any notice, people were shocked, they were concerned, they wrote in numerous letters to say, that's not right. And so, and I also want to say that the temporary closure vote in June of 2018 was 3-2. So we come to December, and the school board listened to the residents, and they said, okay, we're going to put off that decision to close Summit School indefinitely. And so they did. They came back in January, and they said, you know what, we're not, they voted, and I forget the vote, it might have been 3-2 again. 5-0. We're not going to close Summit School indefinitely. We're going to close Summit School temporarily. So that's where we are. That's where we've always been. And I got to tell you, since May, when we first heard that this was coming down the pike, that they were considering closing the school, we have been meeting as a community group every single week to talk about the plans. And I got to tell you something else. And again, this is painful because I've worked with the school board. I've worked with Andy. I have remarkable respect for their talents, but I have been extremely disappointed. So we asked the district to make a magnet school. Please, if you have a focused area of interest, you're going to attract so many more students. And we were told, no, we're not going to have a magnet school. So we went to the school board and we said, please, will you just consider having a magnet school? And then they said they would. And that was wonderful. We were willing and excited to put all of our efforts, like an amazing superwoman like Thea, to work toward that, to work with the district, to work with people we like and respect and work with. And then we were told, even if you guys come up with the most wonderful magnet school, and go back and listen to it because I'm not making it up, there is no promise that we're going to put that at Summit School. And that's where it's like Thea and I come to like, oh my goodness, what other choices do we have? We've given everything to the district to help want to work with them, and we've been told no. So what is our only other option? It's a charter school, and actually if you go back, Summit was its own school district, and San Antonio was its own school district. And in 1965 there was a vote, and the majority of residents in Upper Ojai and the majority of residents in San Antonio School District voted against the unification. But it was the entire district vote. And so they were outvoted, and they were unified with Ojai. But we were our own district, so we thought, gosh, a charter, maybe that's the only way that we can maintain a public school for our area that is geographically isolated. In fact, it met the definition of a necessary small school. That's a whole other issue, but it got extra funding because it had 15 students that lived within 5 miles of the nearest Mupu or San Antonio. But
it met that definition of being a geographically remote area that required extra resources from the state to maintain it because it was necessary. That's actually the name of the grant program that we were able to get through Andy's excellent work for many years. So one, number one, please suspend any notion that you need to vote to surplus the property. And please engage the new superintendent in your decision before you make it. We ask that you recommend the school board that Rock Tree Sky can continue license Summit School for a year, to continue to license Summit School for 1 year. He's done it successfully for a year. A license actually gives him more surety because it does not open up that site to more competition that could potentially jeopardize his program being there. And I have to say I have the utmost respect for Jim. His program is phenomenal, and he serves as an educational supplement to many schools, and I don't see, charter schools, I don't see why he couldn't be that supplemental program for Ojai Unified. As you all know, Jim was a science teacher in Ojai Unified. If you spend 2 minutes around Jim, you're going to learn something, and you're going to appreciate his view of education as it's evolving for everybody, not just for homeschool families.
You weren't here last week when he talked about metal detectors.
And then, Jessica, you caught that freaking bee. And you said that I'm an Upper Ojai girl. Okay? That's the can-do spirit that Upper Ojai has, which is the can-do spirit that we want to employ for Upper Ojai, that we're fully capable of doing for a win, 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 win. And that's 4 wins, and I'll tell you more about what those are. And then the third ask is for the Condor kids to continue to allow shared use of the school to provide free activities for area children. And that, my fourth ask is for during the coming year, plans currently underway to bring more students to either a Summit Magnet, or a Summit Charter School are finalized with the district for a restart date of 2021. So when you're talking about what to do with the property, which you're tasked with deciding, those are 4 things. Don't make it surplus. Don't take it out of the district's hands. Don't foreclose on opportunities and possibilities. Have Rock Tree Sky continue its great work there, Condor Kids, and help us to restart our public school.
Is there any difference between what you asked and what Thea asked? I'm sorry. Like, you guys are asking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not she's asking for magnet, she's asking for charter.
I don't think so.
So Tiffany Morse, I'm very excited about her coming as our new superintendent because I read the article about her ideas and her experience and her expertise. She was responsible for the design, development, and implementation of the career technical education programs at the Ventura County Offices of Education. During her time overseeing it, enrollment increased from 2,500 to more than 4,000 students. She was quoted as saying in the paper that she has the ability to bring new programs and resources to the district. She said, "In my current position, we have built a lot of," this is a quote, "we've built a lot of programs that did not exist before. So we're able to kind of look at the needs of the community, see what's being done in the future, and then to build programs that support that." She continues to say something that no doubt will make her an honorary Upper Ojai citizen and Upper Ojai girl. She said she wants to provide kids with opportunities that they wouldn't get anywhere else. I want it to be someplace where people say, wow, Ojai has this program. That's amazing, and I'm so happy that my child has access to this program, this unique thing that they would not be able to get in any other district, unquote. So before you recommend a long-term lease to an educational vendor in the place of a free and public school, as is being proposed, in our geographically isolated community with a 108-year-old school, it actually goes back to the 1870s, of having a school in Upper Ojai, I want the new superintendent, who will be forced to live with the school board's decision to look at our temporary closed school with fresh eyes. I want her to look at our unique and amazing historic school at the gateway of the Los Padres Forest with a distinct ability to boost Ojai Unified declining enrollment and say, wow, Ojai has this amazing school. Summit is one of the key assets to make this happen. If it were not an amazing place with continued amazing possibilities, why on earth would Summit School right now have 104 students attending an educational vendor program? Why give that away? Why tie up this opportunity now on the cusp of new leadership with a long-term lease with subsequent rights of first refusal at a starting negotiating price of $50,000, as discussed at your last meeting? So I've given you the petition at our last at our meeting on July 31st that was billed specifically to talk about Summit School. A motion was unanimously approved, except for Phil Schmidt, who did not want Rock Tree Sky at the site, to be supportive of Rock Tree Sky using the facility over next year, with the understanding its use might not be extended beyond that. Support the efforts by members of the Upper High community and others to look at the potential of having a public school the following year, and that Condor kids use the site, and that the community space be used for times after school hours. That was the unanimously voted on motion that was made at the Upper Ojai Council meeting, specifically formed to discuss. And I've got Trevor's quote. I'm summing up the will of the group that evening to, quote, continue the school the next year, and we're going to make efforts to do that, and we have. We've made a lot of efforts.
Do you know when the superintendent's supposed to start?
July 1.
Or July 1. Some of you may not know that Ojai Unified is a district of choice. Bob was talking about that. It is a tool for districts that choose that designation to bolster declining enrollment. Simply, a district of choice is one that children from other school districts may transfer to without getting approval from their home districts. It was the use of the district of choice designation that helped the Summit PTO boost its enrollment in 2011-12 to 74 students, in 2012-13 to 73, in 2013-14 to 62, and then in the second year of having just 2 teachers, when the resources were taken away from Summit, for the third teacher there were 38 and 42 and 43. Oak Park Unified, as Bob mentioned, has faced an aging population with few children and thus drastically declining enrollment. And just in 2017, Thousand Oaks Assemblywoman Irwin wrote an op-ed in the Star, and this is her quote from that op-ed. Oak Park Unified estimates that if it were to end the District of Choice program, then music and athletics programs would be scaled back, counselor ratios would be worsened, and there would be higher student-to-teacher ratios at all grade levels. It asserts that declining enrollment begins a downward trend, a downward spiral, with parents unhappy with the quality of education and transferring to other schools or moving away. Sound familiar?
Marianne, you're running short on your time.
Yeah, that's good, because I'm almost done.
Just finish.
Am I done with my 15 minutes?
Yeah, well, you're getting close, and we were supposed to be.
Okay. The Ojai Unified School District 7-Eleven Committee, employees, students, and family members need to look at all the options for Summit School, including keeping it as a free public school, by discussing district of choice, discussing magnet schools, discussing charter schools. That is why you are here. Please do not be used by an outgoing administration as a rubber stamp for a predetermined outcome. Hold on, Bob. A couple more things.
I have nothing to do with this.
Can't even stop it.
That's the time.
And no one can ignore the issue of equity. A large number of students who lost their neighborhood Summit School in 2018 were students who qualified for Title I funding, which means they are low income. Exactly the category of students least served by a homeschool charter educational vendor that is out of economic reach for those who want their children to attend an organized educational program outside of the home for more than 2 days a week. From the very beginning, this is a win-win-win-win. I told there are 4. From the very beginning, we've advocated in Upper Ojai this quadruple win, seeking ways a public Summit School could share the campus with a program such as Rock Tree Sky, serve as an absolutely necessary center of our community with enhanced community services, provide revenue to the district, in excess of what would be provided by an educational vendor, and, you know, most of all, have a free public school offered to our residents. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. You can help us to ensure the Upper Ojai, not just its public school, but the community is rebuilt and revitalized, and thus help lift up the entire Ojai Unified School District in its mission to educate our children and help make them the best participants in our democratic process that they can be. And I thank you so much for setting that example.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I have a point of order.
Yeah. Yes.
It appears that we have a number of committee members that have brought up a number of good questions that need to be explored and asked, where things were said that, gee, we need more information, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can we get those so we know for the next meeting, like, for example, the water issue that was brought up?
Well, again, those type of things, but we also said we're gonna stop these meetings at 2 hours.
That's right.
And so we're now stopping the meeting. So are we stopping the meeting? We're gonna continue the meeting long enough to be able to articulate those questions so we have the information? So we don't have to have a 4th or 5th or 6th meeting? Can we
Well, that's
get
first.
those things down so we can get to the end of this thing one of these days? Is that fair?
I would agree with that.
I think so. I think the first order of business would for us to establish what we need for the next meeting. The number one thing was the water issue that came up, I think, right? Is there something else?
Respectfully, how does that actually help you guys in your deliberation? So,
I think the issue, at least in my mind, the issue is if there's one water use that goes concurrent with the property and there's 2 parcels, if we were to say for parcel A do this and for parcel B do this, but you can't do this on parcel B without water, that's gonna affect my decision.
okay.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know.
So the question is, do we have the ability to have multiple users accessing the water?
That would be it.
The question is there only one allocation for both properties?
Well,
Because
per-
the water allocation.
Per parcel,
per
you have
parcel,
2 legal parcels.
Yeah.
But you only have,
One
as far as we
allocation.
understand, one allocation with Cesar Mutual Water District. So, and that's a small, limited water district that, you know, it's a very, as you were saying, it's a very coveted, very valuable share. So if there's 2 properties, they couldn't be split
Right.
as one proposal had been made.
Yeah.
So that's, what else?
I talked to Bill Slaughter this week, who's on the
Board.
with Cesar Mutual Water, and I was asking him about the water, because I'd been talking to Chuck, and he said it was on Cesar Water, and I said, do both those parcels have a share? And he said, I think they do. He said, you could double check with Rod, but I think there's a share for both parcels. Rod Thompson would be really the one to
But
ask.
that's something we're gonna
That's
need
the
to
question.
know. But we're gonna need to know, we don't want
Okay, we'll get that. What's the next item? Is there another item?
I had a question regarding, you know, a lot of this has been weighing on this new superintendent.
I know.
Things like that. So are we able to ask the superintendent if they want to support
Let me
the
piggyback on that.
7-Eleven?
Yeah, well, here's my question to that is, does, no disrespect to Andy, but does the superintendent even actually weigh in on that decision, or is it
Right.
the school board? And if it's the school board, why does it matter if we have a new superintendent or not? They have to live with the decision regardless. So.
Well, I think the superintendent could present anything they wanted, new stuff, to the school board, and that would be their job. So Andy's not gonna be here.
Right?
This lady, I think, I hopefully will be here for a long time, and she has to live with whatever decision is made, and I don't think it should be made without her input.
So do we ask her, do you have any input about this?
Or we
To
have
the board?
Or we have
How about a different thought? I don't know how long you've been here, it's kinda like that AD at Oklahoma.
Well, I've been there a while.
Going ahead and getting a new coach and then retire. Or he picks somebody and retires. Yeah, I think what I've seen was, going back to Gwen Gross, we went ahead and got the board, and then she went off to Beverly Hills. And so, you know, we make a bunch of promises, and then we have these changes and changes and changes. We're 45 days away from a new superintendent. I think what we need to do is figure out kind of where we are, make some recommendations, and
But will her input make any
But
difference
I
anyway?
think that's
That's
our
it.
job is to make a decision and make a case. And I mean, that's our job.
I agree.
We don't have
So,
to.
yeah, I mean, I'll just say, first of all, no offense taken for anyone who wants to say anything about my lame duck status. That's fine. That's I will say that it was never my decision, nor will it become Tiffany's. It's the board's. You guys are a recommending body. The recommendations you make will be advisable to the board, but they'll still make the decision they believe it's best. That decision may not come until the fall. There's no guarantee that if you make a recommendation in May that they're going to feel such pressure they must complete this process before she comes on. But ultimately, I don't believe that my presence or hers is going to have a substantive difference on a deliberation by the board or you guys. I agree, Jeanette.
My input is, the school board generally gives the new superintendent a little bit of flexibility when they show up for the first meeting. Usually, kind of ease into it. So I don't want to handcuff a new person. I think it's fairly clear. I think we have heard that there are possibilities. There's possibilities of park bond, possibilities of it going to having the county go ahead and come up with a parcel bond. I was told when I wanted to kick out the water company that I'd never get $60 million. And I did.
Showed that.
And I'd never get 87.4% of the vote, and I did.
So
And
you wanna
Specific
wait,
with
so
predictability?
Bob,
No, I
do
think.
you wanna wait until the new superintendent shows up?
I'd like to wait till the new superintendent shows up, but I don't think we can do nothing. I think we have to find out, get all these questions. I'd like Mr. Offerman, I'd like to really know what's going on with this thing.
Does this
And if
board
he has
able to
any-
wait? Can
No.
we wait, everybody?
Well, yeah, everybody can wait,
I
but
mean,
I'm
if we
saying-
adjourned until then.
But why don't we go ahead and make sure that we get all the questions? I'd like to hear from the county. And I'd like to hear if my thought is that the people want to preserve it at least for a community area, in a community center, in a gathering place, in a celebration place, in a place to shelter in place when we have a fire and when we have all that other stuff. That's what I think the community, if we can have a school, some type of school, I think they'd rather, have a different joint uses.
I don't think that was exclusionary from what Jim said that he would allow it to be done.
Well, no, I understand it, but what I'm
Whoa,
saying
whoa, whoa,
is.
hold on.
I don't.
We're gonna be here, we're
Yep.
going down a rabbit hole.
Right.
Number one issue is,
Way to go, Bob.
for the next meeting, what do we want on the agenda other than the water issue? That's the first, so we have the water issue and we have, are we gonna wait until July 1st to start talking about and making recommendations to the board?
How about another
It's just a
issue?
recommendation. Should we take a straw poll now to decide that? Because if we are,
Just to be clear, you guys were charged by the board.
right.
The board made their decision after they knew this entire timeline. So I mean, the board's ask to you guys was to deliberate this spring. Not to say that you are absolutely bound by it. They're not going to disassemble you and form a new committee if you guys choose to wait. But their charge to you guys was to deliberate this spring. It was not to have this become a year-long process simply because of the timing of this transition.
So there's the
Should
answer.
we ask the board if they want to dissolve us?
I think we need to. I think,
And do we need to?
Do we need to
They
have
don't
a
want to
discussion
dissolve.
on the next meeting?
all right, I just think we need to just do what we were charged with, is
And
determine
one
if
of them is
it's
to sell the
surplus or
property.
not. That's the first
Is it
issue.
something that we would recommend
Okay,
sell?
hold on one second. Water, and do we wanna wait until July 1st? I'm hearing that you don't wanna wait till July
I don't
1st.
mind,
You would
but-
like to wait till July 1st, right?
What do
To
we
start-
gain from waiting till July 1st?
July 1st is the new fiscal year for the school district, when the new superintendent will
And
come
Andy
into
has
office.
just told us that the school board, when they formed this committee, knew, I think, is that what you said? They knew what was going on, and they knew there was gonna be a new superintendent, and they still said, form this committee
Yes.
and decide the issue. So why are we waiting till
Well,
July
my
1st, given
one
that?
follow-up would be, do we learn any new information, budgetary or otherwise, on July 1st?
No.
Because if
No.
not, then we have to do what we have to do.
And respectfully, who cares? If she says, here's what I want done with the property, okay, fine, but we can still make our decision. So,
They can disregard our recommendation.
that's right, so we're not
anytime.
you use the word
We're not-
handcuffed, we're not
they're not
handcuffed.
bound by
All right,
anything.
so for the next meeting, we're not waiting till July 1st, right?
Right.
Okay, and then, so can we just get on the agenda for the next meeting that we are going to, the first issue is it surplus or not? Because that's what we are charged to do. And the definition of surplus is a non-exclusive use for more than 30 days, right? That's it. That's what the first question we're supposed to be doing. Then if we decide it's surplus, what are the recommended uses? And let's start figuring those out so we can get a report to this board.
So I guess we need to figure out, aside from the water question, are there any other pieces of information we need to do what you just said?
Yeah, I guess
Numbers.
the only pieces of information are what are we gonna say, well, I would like this use, but I would like to know before I decide on that use.
Yeah, I would like to get the numbers from,
When is the next meeting at?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks?
Because a lot depends on those numbers. Everything is depending
That's
on
the
whether
one
we're gonna have
thing we
something
might
that's
wanna
going to
Yeah.
come in.
Because she's
I
just getting up to
understand what you're
speed.
saying.
Postpone
I
it
can do
for
the best I can do.
a month.
and,
A month?
You know, and try to hustle and see
That would be
what I
the
can do.
one.
I think we could
You know,
say,
that's a
well,
tall- that's
we
a tall
support this
order.
use contingent
And it
upon
won't-
these numbers
it would be
coming up and
quite
start
accurate.
at
It's
least
my own
flushing
view.
it out
Can
Understandable.
we take a straw vote on that, Trevor? How many days to wait
for the next meeting.
to give her time to organize?
Or like
I
you
think,
said.
with all due respect, we need to vote on something that's actually, I mean, really, no, all due respect, but that would just be interest, so it wouldn't be people, students committed,
To the school.
signed up.
But that's the way you begin the
Oh,
Speculative.
process.
But it's
That's the way,
suspicion. I
right,
totally
that's
agree,
the
but
only
it's
way
like
you can begin it, so that's where you
speculative.
start.
So, in other words, what you're saying is we don't actually need to know that. We just need to say, we think there's enough interest. We
That's right.
open it to that use. Here you go, board. You guys figure it out.
Contingent,
That's right.
I support this use contingent upon X, Y, Z. You can put any contingency you want. I think the use is a public school, right, Thea? Someone says, well, one of the uses, sorry, the use is a public school. One of the uses that I want to include in a recommendation to the school board is that it be used as a public school, subject to Thea showing us however many people are
Or
interested.
them.
That's a great
Or
motion.
them.
Yeah, that's
So,
very
but
to
I'm
me,
just
that's very
saying that you guys could say
reasonable.
that. So at the next meeting, I just want to keep moving forward because I feel like we're
understanding,
not
somebody
making
made the
progress.
joke that I think you said we could recommend a strip mall or a casino to the board,
Oh
but
my
that
God.
doesn't necessarily mean that the
We
board.
can give them 5
We could say
recommendations,
anything.
yeah.
in
That-
other words.
anything.
So we wanna make a reasonable list,
Right.
Right.
because we're not crazy.
We're
But it
supposed to
does-
submit a report.
But it doesn't have to be surplus to become the charter.
Well-
It'd be a conversion charter. There's two different things. It can be surplus and
We'll
be
get
a
into
charter.
the meat of it at the next meeting, but the issue is now, what more information do you want at the next meeting before you're able to say yes or no surplus, yes or no to these following uses?
We
That's the
can't-
information, that's what we're trying to flush out right now.
Trevor, at number 5 is that we can vote on whether it's surplus or not tonight,
Okay?
unless nobody's ready to do that. I'm just saying it's already on our agenda, so we don't have to push it back another week unless
I don't
everybody's
think,
not
I mean, is
ready.
there any more information that we need to know to determine whether or not we're gonna say, yes, I vote a surplus, or no, I don't? Like, what else is there?
There's one thing that I'd like to know. The option J money that's been allocated, that's everybody's property, is that gonna actually be spent on that facility? And, you know, the air's out, this is out, this room needs to be done, there's $575,000 worth of money that's already been allocated and reserved and set aside that we're gonna pay taxes on the bond.
So that money will not be spent on Summit until such a recommendation from you comes, and then a decision by the board is made about whether or not the district is gonna remain the, primary user of that space. If they are the primary user of the space, of course, they're going to invest those dollars. If they are not, then it becomes a potential negotiation with the user of the space, and it's gonna depend on how long that user has the space. If the dollars don't go to that site, then they must stay within facilities across the district. So, those dollars will go toward improving the classroom environment for students in the Ojai Valley, which is what the assessed fees are for. But they will not go to Summit if we do not envision a scenario in which we're using, Summit to the benefit of OUSD kids.
And I have a question along those lines too. I keep looking back at this district mission statement. I was looking at it during the school board meetings because it says that the district is charged with providing a comprehensive, stimulating educational program. Is there any other property that the district has where they are not using that property to provide a stimulating educational program,
We have very stimulating educational programs at all of our sites except that one.
except for the summit.
Right.
So if we did deem it to be surplus property, and Jim is using it exclusively and enters into this lease, it's not fulfilling the mission of the school district, because they're not providing the educational program. Right?
Not by following the.
Well,
conclusion.
I mean,
Well,
We don't
all
need
they
it
would.
to- We don't need them to.
Once it's
we can
surplus,
deem
then it doesn't matter.
surplus.
Right.
Once
That's
you
the
get
issue.
surplus,
They,
it's
they
out
don't,
of-
they don't fall under our mission anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not.
That's the,
Okay. then-
I think that's where we're
Right.
going.
Yeah.
But how about the Upper Ojai Council has recommended that they want they want a school up there. Isn't that right?
The people of Upper
Or
Ojai
Ojai
voted
have-
on it in
have-
July.
Right.
For
Yeah.
this school year,
But the school.
but we
district
haven't
doesn't.
revisited it.
Well, we
So-
haven't, but
We
it's
have
not, they
another
didn't
meeting.
say
And-
for
It
this
might
school.
yes,
Wait a
they
minute.
did
No,
specifically.
they said for this school year? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
And to be blunt, none of these issues were flushed out at that meeting.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have this kind of debate where we had presentations and things like
But
that, so.
don't you think the Upper Ojai people should be involved?
Well,
And
we're
you
trying to
should-
get
we
them here
should
and they're
know
not.
what?
Well,
They're-
there has to be another, I mean, there's a process.
Can we get back to what?
What we're here to do?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Are we gonna vote on whether it's surplus property or not tonight?
I would like to.
I think we should. Can we do that?
I'm happy to.
What's the formality? Are we just gonna go down the line, everybody say it? Is there a motion that it be deemed surplus property?
I move that the property not be deemed surplus tonight.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Vote's gonna go either way, it doesn't matter. Just for the sake of a vote, I'll second that, we're never gonna get an up or down vote.
Okay,
I mean, it's a positive
so
or negative vote.
the motion before the board is that it not be deemed surplus property. All in favor?
Tonight.
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 So when
Just
voting
tonight.
yes means you vote to retain the property. Is that
No,
correct,
what it
Sharon?
is it's saying
Retain
we're
the vote.
voting not to vote
Tonight.
tonight. That's what she's, I believe.
Is that what you said?
No,
We're voting not to
no.
vote tonight?
I thought your vote was that it not be deemed surplus property at all.
Well, I haven't
If-
voted.
doesn't want
If
to.
you
doesn't
believe
wanna
it's not to
decide
take a
tonight.
vote tonight, and just don't take a vote tonight.
Right.
then This is very.
That's convoluted.
Yeah,
Convoluted.
either.
So the issue that, okay, let me ask you. Are you making a motion to not vote at all tonight?
I'm making a motion not to vote tonight.
Okay, then if
Is that what it
Oh, I
that's,
withdraw my second, I didn't know.
yeah, I thought that we all
Sorry.
decided that we were going to vote tonight.
Well, obviously, we didn't all decide.
Thank you, I
I
am
mean-
mistaken. When I looked around the room and I said, are we doing it, I didn't hear you say, I oppose this.
I don't think we need to be unanimous in that decision.
Okay, well, so then I'm gonna put it before the board. Is there a motion to deem the Summit School surplus property? To deem it surplus, that means, yes, Summit School is surplus property.
Yes,
Is it-
I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I would second that emotion.
All right, so now,
That motion. It's late, sorry.
so,
That
Jim, you're very emotional.
Fantastic.
all right, so hey, so you're voting, if you say yes, you are voting that the Summit School is deemed surplus property. Do you guys all remember what the definition of surplus property is? All of it.
Well, you
That's the
don't-
Summit School.
Oh.
Okay?
Can you vote by raise of hands so we
Yes.
can count? Because
Can we
I'm
abstain?
confident it's not gonna be unanimous.
Of course you can abstain. So all in favor of that motion?
There you go.
So it passes, well, let's get a vote. 2, 3,
Can I
4,
take a
5,
picture?
6,
Sorry.
7.
Well, I'll just do the thing. Raise your hands again, please, I'm sorry.
So it's,
Just
Okay,
the ones that didn't.
Got it.
all right, so by a vote of how many?
7-4.
7 to
Well,
4,
We don't know yet if anyone's abstaining. Why don't you go?
All right, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm abstaining.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
abstaining.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
2
don't-
abstentions, and how about no's then?
I'm gonna abstain.
I'm
Well, hold on, who is
Yeah,
abstaining? Raise your hands if you're abstaining from the motion.
3.
Okay. Did you get that?
Yeah.
And no's to this motion? You did you vote yes? I'm sorry.
I did, yes.
My fault, yes. Okay, so 1 no. All right, so then the agenda for the next meeting will be since the motion has passed, we're gonna figure out the water issue, and then we're gonna start talking about formulating a list of recommended uses, right? And is there any more information, back to this topic, is there any more information that you all wanna know before you say, I would vote to, other than Thea, which we understand, any more information about saying, I would like to support this use?
Yes, I want to say one thing. We voted to make it surplus, and then why waste our time in the water issue when we didn't segment it more than one parcel?
Yep.
And we didn't segment that, it was predicated on the water portion, and it was.
Well, because your next task is gonna be to establish a priority list of uses, and among that priority use, you might say a charter school or public education entity is our top priority. A second priority would be a joint use agreement between so-and-so. I mean, the surplusing was not necessary to identify the.
It was necessary to availability of the property, based upon what the water allocation was. But that's okay, I've abstained on that for that reason, because we didn't separate that. That's what my issue was. You made a good point that we needed more information. We didn't get the information, we took the vote, and so we have a binding vote.
Okay, cool. Any other information that the board feels they need before they're able to say they support XYZ use, whatever the use is? No? All right, next meeting is in 2 weeks at 5:30 here.
We have to adjourn, don't we?
Yeah, meeting is adjourned.